So I'm starting a YouTube channel, and the purpose of the YouTube channel is to document my process of transitioning or really reinventing myself as an artist at the age of 53. So what am I transitioning from? For the last 18 years, I've had a wellness coaching practice. I've been a Buddhist teacher in a major Buddhist community here in Los Angeles, actually an international community. And one of the things that I'm interested in doing is seeing if I can bring the principles and practices that I've been teaching all those years and practicing for 35 years into serving artists and the creative act specifically. So today's video is an experiment. What I want to try to do is take you through an experience in the practice of mindfulness, but with the idea that one could discover stories that might want to be told through your creative process. So my experience is that when you bring awareness, particularly into the body, in a certain kind of way, an objective way, which I'll talk about in a minute, you might have access to experiences or stories or some of your own personal history that arrive in ways that you don't normally encounter that kind of content. So it's just a little bit of a different way of accessing your own history, the stories that want to be told that are held in the body. Anybody who's been in the healing world or the sort of spiritual world will be familiar with this notion that the body holds our history, it holds our stories. We live our lives so much externally, stimulated, and we're in the TV, we're in our phones, we spend a lot of time outside of ourselves. And the practice of mindfulness is about turning our attention into our own internal experience and seeing what's there in an objective kind of way. So let me give you a definition of mindfulness that I've been using for many years. So my definition of mindfulness is this. It is an objective observation of what's happening within us and around us in the present moment. So the within us and around us piece is probably pretty clear. It's about being able to see what's around us, what's inside us, the interaction of what happens outside us and how our kind of inner world is impacted or responds. In the present moment is fairly intuitive, right? We're talking about basically right now. And maybe the most important part of that definition is this idea of objectivity. And I like that word because what it suggests to me is maybe what you could call a distinction between what could be considered ordinary consciousness and the kind of awareness that we developed through mindfulness practice. And there is a difference. In ordinary consciousness, which is just our day-to-day, we're very much in our experience. We're in our emotional lives. We're in our relationships with people. We're just there's this sort of sense of just deep entrenchment in our experience. With mindfulness, there's this ability to step back from your experience, to create some space, to create some perspective where you can kind of see and know what's happening within you and around you in the present moment. And the most important thing maybe that happens, there's two things I would say. One is that you get to be able to choose your response to things. In ordinary consciousness, we're just sort of in our experience and we're being kind of driven by the prompts of liking and disliking things, and we follow our impulses. If we have a desire, there's not a lot of space in or perspective. In mindfulness, we're very much creating a kind of wedge in our awareness where we're not taking things so personally. We're able to objectively view what's happening within us, emotionally, in terms of sensation, even with our own mind, our own thinking mind. We're able to go, oh, interesting, there's that thought, right? So this distinction between ordinary consciousness and mindful awareness is important, and that's really what we're developing. And today, in the exercise that I'm going to lead you through, I want to do that in a couple of ways. So there'll be a couple of steps before we get to the real thing. What's the real thing? What I want to do today is actually take you into your body, if you're willing, and actually specifically into relationship with our hands. I've just chosen that arbitrarily, but I think the hands are a very potent place where we can find stories from our history. And the idea is to use whatever comes up in the service of the creative act. So there may be some story, some part of your history, some memory that you might find compelling that then could be expressed through your work, whether that's songwriting or a photography series or whatever you do. Okay, so a couple more things to set up and then we'll get into the exercise. I want to say something about the spirit of the exercise. There's this, mindfulness works best when there is as little judgment as possible. A sense of openness to meet whatever is true in the moment without a lot of sort of sense of pushing anything away or grasping at anything. We're just interested in investigating what's true. And to meet what's true with an openness, with a kind of kindness, compassion if it's necessary. That sometimes what we encounter in the body, depending on our history, is not all that pleasant. So the move is not to go, oh, I don't like that. It's just sort of like, oh, interesting, there's an unpleasant experience, right? Or there's a pleasant experience. And we're not grasping at anything or trying to get rid of anything. Instead, we're just really open and meeting whatever arises. And it will be different in any given moment, right? You could do the same exercise tomorrow and you may encounter a whole different set of experiences. So there's a fundamental openness, a fundamental sense of accepting, of being willing to be present with whatever arises. So that's part of the spirit. And then the other thing I want to ask specifically for this exercise is, as I give the prompts, try not to think yourself into the answers, but rather allow the answers or the sort of insights or memories to arrive. Be curious at what might arrive in awareness. And it might not actually even come as particularly like a thought in the way that you might normally experience thought. And we can have a whole, and maybe we will in the future, a whole kind of talk here about the nature of thinking and the difference between awareness and the experience of thought itself and what are thoughts composed of. I mean, it's you start to, in mindfulness, be able to sort of really get a sense of the interrelated parts of your awareness and your physical and physiological experience. Okay, so let's start. What I want to do is three things. I want to do a little bit of a calming exercise, just to sort of bring us, modern life, it's a stressful time, just to sort of calm us. That will serve us a little bit. And then I want to do an experience or an experiment with gathering attention. So it'll be a little bit of a concentration exercise. And then we'll go into the body. We'll do a body scan, and then we'll arrive at the hands. And that'll be the practice. So the way that I like to do the calming part of the exercise, and so just to begin, take a posture that you feel you can maintain for a little while. Probably sitting upright, look spiritual, will you? And in my experience, one of the best ways to calm yourself is just to take your attention out for a minute. So for a moment, just take your attention out into the external sonic field and notice the arising and passing of sounds. And as you do that, just have this sort of invitation that as you move your awareness out, that you could calm your body. Soften your shoulders, soften your belly, let go of any tension in the body. So we'll do that now. So just taking your attention out and notice what sounds are arising and passing in the environment. Now, I've made a choice to leave the air conditioning on in this video, partly because it's hot as hell here, but also you may hear that. That's something that you can hear even when we're not, or when I'm not talking. So just notice if you can hear the fan. Notice in your external environment I can hear some traffic. I hear my cat moving because I can hear his little collar chain. And just invite some calm into your body as we do this general mindfulness practice of paying attention objectively to the arising and passing of sounds in the environment. We'll just take a couple of moments with this. Inviting calm, softening your shoulders, softening the belly, softening your face. And we can go outside ourselves in another way, which is visually. So letting go of the sounds, just notice what is happening in your visual field. Just look around the room, look around the space that you're in, and notice what you're most attracted to, because I'm going to ask you to land on something. And notice the impact. Maybe there's 10% of your awareness on your internal experience. Most human beings, when they look around a space, will calm themselves for reasons that I can explain another time. And now just land on a single object, and maybe even just part of a single object. Like I've landed on a print that I have hanging on my wall, and I've sort of focused in on one flower in that print. And as an experiment in mindfulness practice, in the collection of awareness, of focusing of attention, just have the intention to place all of your attention on this one thing at the exclusion of everything else. And that doesn't mean that we don't notice the sounds or things, but we keep coming back to this one object of awareness. It's something we could call an anchor for our attention. And we do this as an exercise in gathering our awareness so that we can then turn that focused awareness on our own bodies. We'll do that in a few moments. Now, an inevitable part of the concentration practice experience is that the attention will wander. So you will be pulled into thinking, you'll be pulled into other sounds or maybe even other visual experiences, and that's a normal part of the experience. But just bring your attention back, landing again and again on your anchor with the intention to simply focus. Inviting calm, softening your body, a spirit of openness, acceptance with whatever arises, kindness, compassion. Now, taking that focused awareness, we're going to let go of the object, but we're going to retain that focus, that gathered attention, and we're going to bring that attention to the top of our heads. So now we're just entering a mindfulness practice involving our bodies. a spirit of investigation. What's it like to be aware of the top of your head? What's happening there? In my case, I can feel that I have a hat on. I can feel some heat on the top of my head. There's an itch. Openness, just noticing what's true. Not needing to change anything. Acceptance. And then allowing your awareness to move down the head, through the face, to the back of the head, the eyes, the nose, cheeks, the muscles in the face, the lips, the tongue, chin. What are you aware of as you bring attention to your whole head? What sensations are most asking for your attention? And letting that awareness move down into the neck, down into the shoulders, down through the arms, forearms, elbows, wrists. We'll make our first contact with the hands, which we will return to in a moment. Notice what's there in these arms. What interests you? What energy is there? Is there pain? Do the arms feel strong? Do they feel weak? Are they hot? Aging? What do you notice about your arms? All kinds of stories could be held in the arms. So now returning to the top of the torso, dropping down through the chest, the middle of the back, the lower back, the belly. So much available to our awareness here. So many stories, so much history. Happiness, the butterflies of excitement in the belly, that piercing possibility of pain in the chest, of grief, of fear. All of the internal organs, the viscera, wired into our brains through the vagus nerve. I mean, just so much there. So many stories that could be told. Dropping down into the lower body, the thighs, the knees, the calves, the feet, toes. And just for a moment, notice what it's like to inhabit your own body with awareness, just in its totality. What is it like to be here now? In this moment, objectively, with acceptance, with an attitude of kindness, of compassion. What's true? Just notice what's true. Softening. What stories could be told related to the feelings and emotions and physical sensations in this very moment? What impulses are there? Is there calm? Is there anger? Is there fear? What are the stories attached to those emotions? And now, bringing that focused attention to your hands. And you don't have to move them. I did. I just moved I turned my hands up towards my face. So it's interesting. Just noticing the impulse to move as you bring awareness to these hands. And we're just going to explore the stories held within these hands. These hands that have touched so many things, that have held, that you've used to defend yourself. Maybe you've even attacked using these hands. These hands that have been cut or burned or harmed in some way. These hands that you use to communicate, to wave, to flip people off. Any number of ways that we communicate with our hands. These hands that have been used as an expression of love and affection and lust, caressing people, petting our animals. Who has held these hands? And who's not here to hold them anymore? How have we used these hands to explore the world? Have they led us in the dark, groping around to find the light switch or whatever? And these are the hands that most of us will use to express ourselves. What stories are held in these hands? What are the stories that want to be told? Just taking a few moments of sort of objective awareness, just bringing your attention to your hands. Open to the possibility that some story, some part of your history could rise to the top. What do you notice? And as you focus in on one story, one experience, notice the words and images that arrive in the mind. Notice if any emotion arrives. Are there any impulses for movement in the body, or even just in the hands themselves? And I'm going to ask you to see if you can find a phrase that expresses or summarizes or in some way begins to tell the story of this experience that's risen to the top. It could be the beginning of a lyric. It could be the title of an album, the title of a photo series, or something you want to write. And are you willing to move from this practice of exploration into task initiation, into the actual act of doing your work? And what would that look like? What instrument do you go for? What medium? Is it a one-woman show? Is it a painting? Are you going to program a beat? Is there a rhythm that in some way would help you to move this energy? Notice what wants to happen. And if you're willing and so moved, you can stop watching this video because it's ending anyway, and go do your work. If you've made it this far and this was useful to you, I'd love to hear your feedback. Where you think this could go, what stories you found, what did this prompt in you? What other kinds of meditations would you like to see? That sort of thing. At this beginning stage with this this YouTube channel, your feedback will be very valuable to me. So I hope this was useful to you. See you in the next one.